Welcome to the Outsmart Burnout podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Zaria Rubin, a functional medicine doctor, an international speaker, and a burnout badass because I've been there myself. After walking away from my own high-stress medical career, I discovered how to break free from burnout to reclaim my passion, purpose, and joy. And now I'm here to help you do the same. From science-backed tips to time-saving hacks, and hopefully some aha moments that just might change your life. So sit back, relax, and let's do this. Today's guest is Carolyn Lymore, the powerhouse behind Wild Light Career Coaching. With nearly 20 years in high-performance sales roles, Carolyn knows firsthand what it feels like to climb the ladder only to question if you made it to the top of the right mountain. She now helps first and second generation women professionals confront burnout, realign with their true purpose, and design careers that support both fulfillment and financial well-being. So if you've ever felt stuck in a job that looks good on paper but drains your spirit, this conversation is for you. And this could not be more relevant for someone like me who has made drastic career changes throughout my life. So welcome, Carolyn, to the Outsmart Burnout podcast. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zaria. It's so good to reconnect with you, especially over this topic that I know you have spent so much time talking about, and we've just have so much in common. And I know that it's a topic so many women and so many professionals have gone through. So thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Yeah. So I think that, there's so many misconceptions around career and career choice and how we should choose and how we should make decisions. And I think there was this outdated kind of thinking that was pick a job, any job, it's just a job. It doesn't matter. Like nobody likes their job. You just have to do it, earn money. Nobody's happy. And I think that has kind of fallen away over the years, and we have changed our approach and our perspective because work takes up such a large percentage of our lives. We can't be miserable doing it, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think just the rise of social media and technology and just how that's shifted the way that we work, compared to
Mm.
previous generations. You log in and you log out, and that's literally what you do. And in today's generation, you really can't escape work. And so I think technology, while it has so many benefits, and social media as well, it's really played a big part into how plugged in that we are to our work, and it's really reshaped the relationship that we have with our work. So yes, absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, I mean that work-life balance, work-life separation, those lines are all really blurred right now because we walk around with our offices in our back pockets and we're always reachable, always available. It's really hard to draw the line and set some boundaries around that.
Yeah, for sure. I've been doing a lot of just research and study into just the rise of social media and phone usage, and it really started in the late 2000s, right? So it's like 2008 to 2010 was like a really pivotal moment of the iPhone coming out, Instagram launching in 2010. TikTok was a little bit later, but it's like suddenly, we are just attached to our phone. And not to say that that's the only thing that causes burnout, but it really has reshaped how we relate to our work and what that means. And like you said, our office and our clients and our messages is just right in front of us, and we're trained to be addicted to that type of notification and importance, that sense of purpose, or that false sense of purpose, I should say.
Yes, and the false sense of urgency
Yeah.
that just because you're getting a notification, just because you're getting emails, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to respond right away in that moment. There are very few things. I mean, yes, I used to work in medicine and in ERs and things. Those are real life emergencies, but most things, they don't require us to be on call 24/7, glued to our devices, responding, always in this, urgent putting out fires, emergency response mode. I think that is very taxing and very stressful to our nervous systems.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously that's one part of it. And I think it's I think like you said, we've been trained to sort of pick a lane and stay in it and figure it out. And, especially as a society and corporate, in many corporate situations, you see success and growth as upward movement naturally, right? And so I read the stat recently where it's like women in entry level roles in the professional world take up about 43%. Okay. And
Mm,
then when women go into management levels, it's something like 29%. And then it drops to 2% going into C suite.
yeah.
So you think about like the limiting opportunities to go up. But we've been trained that like in order for you to be successful, you're a manager now, you have to be a senior manager. You're a senior manager, you have to be a director. We've been kind of conditioned to think that that's the only way to success, but it's so limiting. How can we all feel a sense of success if it's so limited to the number of people who can get up there?
Mm,
And so I just think that there's so many pieces of this puzzle of burnout because you want to grow and you want to be successful. But if we're trained to, one, always be on our phones and always do more than we can manage, and then two, the only way to feel successful is by going up, is that like where does that really lead us? So I
right.
think we run out of options after a while in this false sense of safety and success, I think.
Absolutely. Let's take a step back for a second and talk a bit more about your journey. So, you started out in strategic sales and had a very successful career at companies like Yelp and ClassPass. And so, by all external metrics, you were doing great and climbing the corporate ladder and achieving. When did you realize that this was a misalignment and you were not on the right path for you?
Wow, that's a good question because I think there were a lot of red flags along the way that I was so nervous to accept because I didn't know anything else. And yes, right? I don't even know when the first red flag was, but I think it's number one, the hours that I was working. I think I had just had my first kid. This was in
Mm.
2017. And, I was doing like the New York hustle, okay? Like, wake up,
Mm.
wake my child up. You spend 30, 40 minutes getting her fed, packing like a million things into this tiny little stroller because that's all we could fit into our New York apartment. Leave the house, stroll her to her nanny share, hop on the subway, make it into work right in time for it to be appropriate, right? Work until 6 p.m. nonstop, wondering about my child, leaving at 5:55, which is sort of frowned upon at that time
Yeah.
in the startup world. Literally like get on a train, hop on a city bike, get home just in time to relieve the nanny, spend about 45 minutes feeding her, putting her to bed, and then getting back online to work until 12 a.m.
Uh,
That was like
y-
a normal life for my husband and I. That
yeah,
was absolutely normal.
that is not sustainable. I think that it's so interesting because I also lived and worked in New York, did not have a child in New York. I don't know how people do it, but I felt like that the lifestyle and the hustle culture and the insanity of it all and trying to manage things like strollers and subways and working until I mean it's not at all compatible with,
Yeah.
human health and well-being. It's just
Well,
but everyone's doing it. So you kind of
yeah.
fall in line and you start to normalize things that are really not normal and you think, well, I guess this is just what adulting looks like.
Yeah. And you are a mom yourself, so I know you can empathize with this, but after birth, that's you're a completely different person,
Oh
right? Your outlook on life and priorities. And so I think like I was, kind of managing dealing with like identity and then also trying to be this, leader within the company and grow and expand my career. And I will say as a mom, I got better at time management, project management, all of that. But it was like during that time in 2017, 2018, I was trying to figure out who the hell I was again as a working mom, trying to be good in both things, but feeling like I'm failing at both. And it was just this constant pressure that was created by myself, society, pressures, and it was just a lot. So I think that that really kicked off the beginning of probably a 2-year stretch
yeah.
of just feeling so exhausted and burnt, like to a crisp.
Yeah. So you experienced burnout yourself.
Yes. And I think it was like a long, drawn out experience too.
This is how I always describe it to people. It's like the frog in the boiling water.
Oof.
You
Yes.
don't get put in the boiling water. You get put in the room temperature water, and it gets turned up 1 degree at a time.
Mm.
And then, because if a frog's put in a pot of boiling water, what's it going to do? It's going to jump out, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if it's put in the room temperature water, and I think this is what so many of us who've gone through a burnout experience, it's not sudden. It's not like a car accident. It doesn't happen overnight. It is a gradual process and a wearing down and wearing away, and this day after day, repetitive, unsustainable situation that just wears away at us to the point that at some critical mass point, and everyone's different, everyone's breaking point is different, everyone's nervous system, physiology, mental state, and everyone's job pressures and life pressures are different. So it may take longer or shorter, but eventually you just, so
Yeah.
what happened for you in terms of realizing this, and how did you resolve it?
So, of course, I pushed on as a highly capable, you know, eldest child, woman,
Mhm.
professional, right? I mean, that's what we do. We figure out ways to power through. And it wasn't until the summer of 2019, I was 7 months pregnant, 28 weeks pregnant with my second child. And I got early labor symptoms in the
Mm.
middle of July 2019. And, I went into the hospital and I was hospitalized for 2 days. And they said it was excessive stress,
Mm.
and there were, other things too. It was the middle of summer. It was like 100 and 2 degrees.
Oh yeah, New York in the
But it
summer
was,
is no joke.
it really was this like self-perpetuated, and pressures from work and life and all of that. I just had so much pressure on myself. That was my breaking point. I was about to deliver a 26-week-old baby
Yeah,
because of
it's
my
a
of my
huge
stress
wake-up call.
levels. Yes. And it wasn't until then that it was like my doctor was like, you need to just stop. You need to stop going into work. So they put me on bed rest. I still worked. That was my this is before I really piloted the work from home situation before.
Pre-pandemic, yep.
Yeah. And so I was dialing in, working from home, doing the remote thing. And I mean, that helped physically. But, again, that was like the beginning of this like 6 month wake up call. And after, when I was due to go back to work, I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore. And after I've given birth. So anyway, I got out of the hospital safely. They were able to reverse the symptoms, put me on bed rest, gave birth to a very healthy child, and mom was also healthy, with barring a couple of weird situations. But I was set to go back February 1st, 2020. And I decided not to. And I actually negotiated a separation, which was very well received. And then 6 weeks
That was
later, it
good
was
timing.
like, yeah. So, I really do think that that was all fate in a way. So I ended up staying home, with my two kids. And for the first time ever, my job was being a stay-at-home mom in the stillness of the chaos of the pandemic. So that really was kind of a turning point for me, that like, wow, my body can feel this way and I can feel connected to my children for the first time ever. Like I can spend more than 45 an hour a day with my kids. Like this is what motherhood should look
Yeah.
like.
And it starts to feel like a luxury.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And it really, it should be the norm, but the way our society is structured, the way things are set up, the
Yeah.
way the cost of living, and the fact that most parents, can't stay home, and it's just, we are shooting ourselves in the foot.
Yeah. Yeah. So, luckily I had a little bit of a runway because I was able to negotiate a separation,
Right.
which coming from sales and negotiation, it's like, gotta do what I'm good at.
Yeah.
So, that afforded me a little bit of time, but I'm not going to lie, like there was a lot of resentment in the beginning, because it wasn't my choice to be a stay-at-home mom. I
Oh,
thought that being successful meant climbing the corporate ladder, hiring nannies, getting help. Like that was a sign of success.
yeah.
I had this vision in my mind that, being a stay-at-home mom meant that I'm not going to be like I'm not going to be a leader. Like what does that even mean? So it
That
came
you're
with
a
a lot of
failure, you're irrelevant. Nobody's gonna pay attention to you or be interested in anything you do because you're the CEO of cleaning up. spit up and diapers, but it is really the most important job.
Yeah. So it took me a while, and there was a lot of resentment towards, not gonna lie, my husband. Like, why do you get to be the person who continues your job through the pandemic, and I have to be the one who steps away and takes on this full-time childcare?
Yeah.
There was no other childcare options in New York at the time. But over a few months, and because it was pandemic, and because we were locked up in our 900 square foot apartment, I had no choice but
Can't imagine.
to talk to myself. My kids were 4 months old and 2.5 at the time, So I spent a lot of time reflecting. I spent a lot of time like journaling when they were napping. And I really started to prioritize like what it is that I wanted out of my life, what made sense for me and what didn't. And once I did that, which I never spent time doing, it was like, wow, I was completely off track for years. I was completely misaligned.
Mm-hmm.
And I just failed to really slow down and notice it. I had red flags, but I didn't actually sit down to pay attention to listen to myself, because it's scary listening to ourselves sometimes, because it means we need to do something about it.
Oh my God, I couldn't say that any better myself, and it couldn't resonate any more with me. I think that sometimes we're going to switch gears a little bit, but it's related. So when it comes to high achievers and a lot of first and second generation women who you work with, we are so focused on achievement and on doing and doing and going and getting all those awards and gold stars and climbing the corporate ladder or going down a career path really far, that we often don't realize that there's a misalignment until it's too late.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of those maybe early signs or red flags or ways in which people who are, and I think about my own daughter and what I want for her in terms of her path and career path and what I wish I had done differently, what I wish our education system did, and the structure of things in terms of how do we make better choices that are more aligned with who we are, that are going to allow greater job satisfaction and success in the long run.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I know you and I are both doing is really trying to foster a new generation of just like tapping into our like trusting our intuition and our feelings, right?
Yeah.
It's like we didn't talk about feelings and emotions as kids. It's like you're crying. It's like, hey, no, wipe your tears.
Suck it up.
Suck it up, buttercup. It's like, that was like the thing, and now it's like, I think it's becoming a little bit more normalized. Obviously, there's still a lot of work for us as a society, but it's just normalizing those feelings of like, oh, you feel upset, don't you? You feel frustrated, right? And so I think normalizing feelings, and I think when you're in it, especially in that hustle culture, we are not even pausing to check in on how we're feeling, what our body is telling us. But and I think this is a little bit comes with age too, but in your 20s you're just hustling and bustling and out there trying to be you and I both, right? It's like the social butterflies, and we are so externally focused.
Yeah. And you can sort of get away with that in your 20s.
For
You
sure.
cannot get away with it in your 40s.
No, absolutely not. And I think it's really learning and teaching, this next generation to tap into that intuition earlier, and to just be okay with, look, I don't feel good. I feel sick. And to either take a day off or to really spend that time discovering and getting curious with yourself, and not just be like, oh, I just had a migraine. Oh, I'll just shake it off. I'll just take a Tylenol. It's like, where's that migraine coming from? What could it possibly be?
Mm.
Is it what you're eating? Is it what you're doing? Is it the stress?
I think that we have just sort of hit on the crux of this for me. So, wow, this is all resonating and making a lot of sense. And I'm putting all the pieces together and connecting the dots that growing up, I think a lot of us were taught that if you have a negative emotion, if you have a difficult experience, if your body is shutting down and telling you things like you have a headache, you've got constant stomach aches or heart palpitations,
Mm-hmm.
that is a symptom or a feeling to be dealt with and treated. So
Yes.
take a Tylenol, wipe your tears, get on with it. That was our approach, rather than going one level deeper and saying, why are we
Mm-hmm.
having these emotional reactions? Why do I have a stomach ache every day at work? Or for myself, I had nightmares every
Oh my
single
gosh. Yeah.
night for decades when I worked in medicine. And I
Mm-hmm.
also had panic attacks every single day that I worked in a hospital. And
Mm-hmm.
my approach to that was not to say, gee, maybe this is really the wrong fit and a misaligned career. It was, I need to see someone to help me get rid of these panic attacks.
Yes. Yeah. That is it's a problem that we have to deal with.
Yes.
And it is a problem that we need to fix, sort through, and like move on. And yeah, like if we can really start to just get curious, I think we're in such a culture of like fix it and just like get on with it or replace it or whatever it is. And I think there's just so much meaning to understanding the root causes of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that sometimes we're very stuck in the decisions that we make, especially when there are sunk costs. So
Mm,
there are the costs of education and
yep.
training, and there are the emotional, intellectual costs of, well, I've made this choice. This is my quote unquote dream job.
Yeah.
Certainly that was the truth for me. It was, well, I had always wanted to be a doctor. So
Mm,
I'm being a doctor. Come hell or high water. I might die trying, but I'm going to do it.
yep.
And I think that is also, I'm eldest daughter, first generation, second generation immigrant. Like, I think that partially is just part of who we are. You just do it no matter what. And so how do we change that approach and mentality to allow us that space to question maybe our own dreams and choices? Maybe they weren't the right dreams. Maybe we're chasing the wrong path or dream job. And it's
Yeah.
going to be very hard to reverse course.
Yeah. And, one thing that I have started to do, and this is what I coach my clients on doing, is a quarterly check-in. We're really used to doing weekly, monthly, quarterly check-ins with our manager in the line of work that we do and for the company that we work for the
Sure,
revenue
our
that we drive.
performance evaluations, that's always being evaluated.
But it's like, when do we really check in with ourselves? Unless you have a meditation practice that is built in, which I think it's a little bit more normal these days, but it's still not, prevalent enough. And so I have a monthly and a quarterly check-in that I have on my calendar, and it's a meeting with myself. And I've got a series of questions that I ask myself just to be like, how are you feeling about the work that you're doing? Are the people that you're serving does that still feel meaningful, and why? And
I
it's
love
like,
Oh my gosh. Can you
and
make sure that those questions are available, or
yes.
do you have a download that
Oh,
we
for
can
sure.
our
Yeah, and if
listeners
you
can
need me to be
access?
your accountability buddy, I will.
Yeah, I think that's so valuable for folks to actually do that. We don't take the time or make the time because we are so busy and so wrapped up in doing that we
Yes.
never take the time to be and to figure out who we really are and what is truly fulfilling us and making us happy and allowing us to serve others or help others in some capacity in our work.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, if it's not in my calendar, I'm not gonna do it,
Yeah,
right?
heard.
So if it's like a legit calendar invite, I'm like, okay, I gotta click through to see what's up. But yeah, and I think I'm a planner. And so sometimes I'll sit down and I'll start to like plan out my months and my years and my next to-dos. But it's like it does take me a while to really get into the mindset of like, no, I'm not trying to plan here. I'm just trying to reflect. This isn't a planning session. This is a
Mm.
reflection session, and it's a like, how do I feel session, And so I think that's really powerful to stop the like go, 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 like you said, and just like just be and just notice.
It was a real kind of epiphany for me. I had not taken a break or a day off or vacation for 5 years, I think, when I had my kid, because you're a stay-at-home mom, so you don't get a day off. It's just
Mm,
I had never gone away for the weekend. I never left my kid. I was kind of obsessive tiger mom. So I went on a yoga retreat, Nicaragua. So it was like I went to the other side of the world to it, and it was the most incredible thing that I could have done for myself. And I had never had those moments of quiet and stillness. I had never had time to have conversations with myself. And I took that time to pause and say to myself, because I was trying to figure out my next step. I had been a stay at home mom. I knew I had to do more than that. I mean, I didn't go to school for 15, 20 years I love being a stay at home mom and I wanted to do more.
yeah.
So rather than ask myself, like, what do I want to do next? Or like, what job do I want? What job title? What job description? It was all about the job. It was more about what do I want my life to look like and
Yeah.
feel like?
Yeah.
And then work around that. And that was something that I had never considered. And I
Mm,
think that as women, as eldest daughters, as immigrants, we don't consider that. And I'd love for you to speak on that for a bit in terms of like the internal narratives that especially first and second generation immigrant women and eldest daughters have. We actually have a podcast interview with someone about eldest daughter
ooh.
syndrome and stuff. So that's ties in nicely. But yeah, share your thoughts about that, about some of the internal narratives and the things that we tell ourselves that maybe prevent us from finding our own fulfillment, alignment, and happiness.
Right. Well, I think that like everything traces back to our beliefs, right? So it's like, what were we taught, or what did we create as our truth, from the very beginning? And like you said, especially, coming from an immigrant family, my parents arrived in 1980 and I was born in 1982. And so in the beginning of 82, they really only had a year or so to acclimate into this new
Wow.
culture before having me. And so I pretty much grew up with like, they only spoke to me in our native language, Chinese, Cantonese, and they were fresh. They were like fresh, right?
Yeah.
And everything was like from the very beginning, we came here for you. We are here to give you a better future. We didn't have that opportunity. And it's said in a loving way, but it's also really freaking heavy
It's a
when that's
lot of burden, a lot of
it's a
guilt,
lot
a
of
lot of
burden. Yeah,
pressure on
there's
you.
so much. Yeah, we never got to go to college. And so we're saving money. So, and we're working these, difficult jobs for you and your brother to be able to do that. So you think about that simple, like, we gave up so much for you narrative. That sounds so simple and it's a few words, but it just lives with a child from the very beginning. And so you think about, yeah, like you said, every decision that you make, every accolade that you win, every degree that you are able to attain, you're like, well, I can't F it up. I can't be ashamed of the family,
I
you
have the
know?
whole family legacy on my shoulders.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, and I'm the first person in my family to go to college. And so you think about, and the first person in my family to have a professional career. And so that narrative really shapes and informs the types of actions that we choose to make, and the inactions that we also choose to, sit back on. So I really do think that just a lot of the work that I know you and I do is like tracing back to these belief systems. Like, what is it that we are telling ourselves that could be hindering us
Mm.
from success or feeling joy or fulfillment? The other thing is, my dad, this is it's generational, but it's also cultural, the sense of loyalty to a company. He was with his company for 32 years.
Yeah,
And so
I
for
thought
me,
of that in the beginning of our conversation that in the old days, you would have a job and that would be your job for life. You would stay with the same company, same job. Maybe you'd work your way up a bit, but you did not switch jobs. God forbid, switch careers.
yeah.
It's a very
And
different mentality.
I spent almost 13 years at two companies, and they were both early stage, high growth companies. And so I started with both of them when we were, 50, 80 people companies, and grew to be, 5,000 at one point, and going public. And so the amount of time and what I've seen, compared to what my dad did 30 years ago at Sealy Mattress and Company, was very different. Things didn't change that much for him during those 30 years. And it changed drastically in the 4, 5, 6 years that I was at these companies. And that makes a world of difference too, where you're like, but I've only been here for 5 years, 6 years. Am I loyal? Like, am I just bouncing around? Or when I started feeling that burnout, the early stage symptoms, I was only there for like 3 years. But in the span of a fast growth startup, that's like 18 years.
Yeah.
And so this idea of
It's
like,
dog years.
right, this idea of like, am I flaking out too early? Like, no, I should stay. Like, how does this going to look on my resume? Was definitely a big part of like my questioning. No, I can't leave. My dad was at his company for 30, almost 35. How can I feel this way at 3?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, there's so much of the belief system that's passed on to us and shapes the way that we make decisions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, so let's switch gears a little bit and talk about your coaching and some of the things that you do. And I know that you focus a lot about figuring out how your values can inform your career alignment or misalignment and, fulfillment and what that looks like. And how do you help people really use kind of tactical strategies to sort that out and guide folks from confusion to clarity when it comes to picking the right thing?
Yeah. So a lot of the women that come to me, they are mid to senior career. So they've got 15, 20, 25 years of experience. And they are, again, a lot of them are in corporate settings trying to get to that next leveling usually. And there's something that's just not sitting right. And so oftentimes, when you think about well, the way that I kind of describe alignment and authenticity is there's sort of three components to it. One being your actions, it's what we do. And in today's world, what we do mostly is our work, right? It's our work, it's what we do. And then it's your values, it's what you care about, that the sort of beliefs that drives your decisions. And then it's your ideals, your standards for perfection. And when those three things feel like they are in flow, like you feel like yourself, you feel authentic, you feel real, you feel like you're showing up as yourself. When those things are misaligned, you feel wonky. People are like, I don't feel like myself. And it's because when your values have shifted, pre-kids, post-kids, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, maybe there's a parent that you lost, or maybe there's some big trauma that you've experienced, your values will shift. The things that you used to care about won't matter as much, and the things that didn't matter before will go up on your priority list. We don't stop to check in on our values. We think that it's the same, and then we continue to doing the same exact action, the same work. That is usually when my clients come to me, when they've been in the same job for a couple years and they're not realizing that their values have shifted. And so what we do is we do a lot of inner work to figure out, what is it that you care about? What are some of those problems that you want to solve in the world? What are some of those things that you feel so strongly about that you just want to shout out on the internet? Like, what are those things? When was the last time you actually checked in on that? And so we do a lot of work around that. And then I can tell pretty quickly, okay, you actually care about, family stability way more than you care about money and freedom, right? And so, but the work that you do is driving money and freedom. Like, does that still make sense for you? And usually it's no, it doesn't. And then we kind of figure out, to your point, what is this ideal life that you want? What does that look like that follows your values? And then we can sort of get strategic and figure out a roadmap of options for that person to create, a career path that aligns better with their values and their ideals.
Love it. So if someone is listening to the podcast today and
Yeah.
is thinking, oh my God, do I need to quit my job? Or not only do I need to quit my job, but do I need to switch careers? How does someone know that whether, we've all had that feeling of like, oh, I'm having a bad day. I don't want to
Yeah.
quit my job versus this is really not okay. And I need to make a change. So how do they figure that out? And then what would be your advice to them for taking the next step?
Yeah. So I would say, I get pretty down to the nitty-gritty with my clients. We're not here to make irrational decisions, right?
Yeah.
I think there's so much talk out there of like, quit your 9 to 5 now and like start your own thing. It's like, girl, if you don't have a savings account, if you don't have like a bit of a security blanket, like let's not do that yet.
It's not
Let's see.
realistic. And let's just say that starting your own business, where we can speak to being entrepreneurs, it's not this like easy dream job that it sometimes
Oh,
seems like in terms of, oh, there's so much freedom and flexibility. There is, but you could also work 20 hours a day.
right, for sure. So I really think it's like, let's look at the big picture of, are you on your own? Do you have a partner? How does that look like? Do you have a security blanket? Do you have a game plan? And how, we can sort of measure like, how long has this been happening for, right? Kind of to your point, have you been boiling in the water for a while? Like where are you at? And once we kind of do that assessment, then we can kind of figure out, okay, you know what? It's actually not a good idea for you to quit right now because you have like pretty reasonable job security. And let's help you negotiate better boundaries,
Hmm.
or maybe even I've helped people negotiate different roles that are more in line with their skill sets and their values within the same company. So there's so many options of like, it's not black and white. It's not
Yeah.
like I got to stay and be miserable, or I'm going to leave and be happy. Like there's so much in between that we can figure out together. So I would say let's kind of take stock of the big picture, your finances, your support system, how long you've been in this like situation for. And then we can then determine, what those potential options are.
Okay, I love it. And that's obviously what folks do when they work with you. And so we're going to get to that in a moment, but I want to just leave us with a last sort of philosophical question. What do you hope to change in terms of the narrative around career success, especially for, first and second generation professional women?
Yeah, I think that success has always been measured externally. It's always been in comparison to the next person or what everyone else is talking about. And sure, you can create a sense of success by emulating others and being inspired by others. But I think if we can all start to learn to create our own version of success and what that means for you and create that internal validation and that internal measurement of achievement, that feels so different. And when you can have that internal version of success so clear, that comes with internal confidence. That comes with internal, you just know yourself, you know your story, you know what you need to do and not do in order to feel this sense of success. And no longer are you looking externally for that validation.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I mean, you can be so successful on the outside and so misaligned and miserable and burnt out on the inside. And
Yeah.
so they really have to actually align
Yeah.
to create a new definition of success. So I love that.
And it seemed the other way around too, right? You see people who, like, I've come across people who are so happy with what they do. And they're in, a very just simple individual contributor role. They're able to really define the way that they show up and what their relationship is to work so that they can do X, Y, and Z. And it's like that person is successful. You can tell. And it doesn't
Absolutely.
matter what their title is. And so, yeah, I think if we can get to this point, I think we'll all just be more fulfilled and feel a better sense of happiness.
I love it. This has been so great. I love this conversation. Thank you for joining us. And really, we hit on a lot of tough subjects and a lot of eye opening discussions that we had today. So I would love for you to tell folks how they could work with you. And we didn't even get to talk about Wildlight, which is your coaching brand and company, and the name, how the name came about for that, because I think there's probably a great story there. But tell us a little bit about Wildlight and how folks can get in touch with you
Yeah.
and possibly work with you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much again for having me and just having these conversations with people. Really, the more perspectives we can hear, the better the outcome. So I really appreciate being on this show and also that you're doing this. Outlight is all about that deep held story that we have inside of us that belongs to us that's been sort of buried away over the years because of external forces and needing to kind of like button ourselves up. And so the idea is like you've got the story inside and
Mm,
it's that wild light. And I'm my coaching program is there to help you like rediscover that voice, that light. You can find me on Instagram. I am the_wildlight. You can also find me on LinkedIn, and it's my full name. It's Carolyn Lymore, and I'm happy to connect.
fantastic. Amazing. So, if you have ever felt the weight of burnout, if you've questioned whether your career is aligned with who you really are and your values, I would say definitely get in touch with Carolyn and see how she can help you possibly tweak things and rediscover what you're really meant to do. And because we all deserve to be happy and fulfilled in our work life. And it's not just a luxury, it's a necessity. I think we sometimes tell ourselves otherwise. Well, thank you for listening and tuning in. As always, if you enjoyed this episode and it really spoke to you, I would love for you to give it a like, subscribe, share this episode with someone you know who is possibly struggling with their career right now and is looking to make a change. And, as always, remember that burnout is not your destiny, it's your wake up call.
Love that.